very honored to be here, as well as all of us. And I'm honored to introduce Mr. Derek Jackson, who is the intern city manager of Collinsville, who actually is hosting today. So without ado.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rico, Mrs. Richards, I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Everyone present here today and those joining us on Zoom. On behalf of the City of Collinsville, we proudly, on behalf of the City of Collinsville and the Collinsville City Council, it's my distinct honor to welcome all of you. We're delighted to have you here at Gateway Convention Center and in our wonderful community. The City of Collinsville proudly aligns with the IWIB's visionary mission of becoming a national leader in workforce development, supporting economic growth, and fostering job creation. This commitment underscores our dedication to building a prosperous future for our residents and businesses alike. In 2022, we achieved remarkable success through our apprenticeship program, bridging a labor gap, providing invaluable experience for students, and ultimately leading to permanent employment opportunities. Building on this success, we're thrilled to continue the program in 2023, forging ahead with our strong partnerships and shared vision of continued success. 2 weeks ago, a mere 6 miles to the west from here in Madison, Illinois, we witnessed the electrifying Enjoy Illinois 300 NASCAR event at the Worldwide Technology Raceway. This thrilling spectacle not only captivated racing enthusiasts, but also served as a catalyst for regional economic development and hospitality in the Metro East. The increased occupancy and average daily rates throughout the Metro East were a testament to the positive impact on such events to our community. Lastly, but certainly not least, we express our deepest gratitude to the state of Illinois for unwavering support. The generous grant of $25 million has significantly contributed to the expansion of our CAVC, Collinsville Area Vocational Center, as a beacon of excellence for workforce development. Serving 9 high schools in the Metro East, CAVC stands for a symbol of our commitment to nurturing a skilled workforce that has shaped our collective future. With these accomplishments and opportunities in mind, we sincerely hope that you enjoy your time here in Collinsville. Welcome to our community and look forward to working with you on continued success, driving economic growth, foster innovation, and creating a brighter future for tomorrow. Thank you, and once again, thank you all for being here in Collinsville. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And also I want to thank Tony for the arrangements that you have made to get us all down here.
Our pleasure. We're always looking to bring people to Southwestern Illinois. When the meeting's over, feel free. We could get Jamie Lane, the general manager here, to give you a tour to see what other events possibly that could be held down here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. So we have a pretty tight meeting today and an agenda. We'll go first with the roll call. Dr. Amy?
Thank you. As your name is called, just say aye if you are in attendance, and we should be able to hear you both online and in person. Elba Rhonda Sue. I saw her online. Tom Ashby. Henry Beards. Huss.
I think you said Kara Huss here.
Victor Dixon. Kaylee Emmerich. Jennifer Foster. Here. Thank you. David Friedman.
Here. Kevin Irving.
Here.
Thank you. Stephen Lefevre.
Here.
Thank you. Ray Marcrioro.
Here.
Thank you.
Online.
Marlon McClinton.
Here.
Thank you. Cheryl Morris.
Here.
Boboke Malabe.
Here.
Thank you. Sandeep Nain.
Here.
Thank you. Barb Oschlager.
Here.
Thank you. Ronnie Patrick.
Here.
Terry Payne.
Here.
Thank you. Michael Perry.
Here.
Thank you. Kristen Richards.
Here.
Thank you. John Rico.
Here.
Thank you. Daniel Soroto.
Here.
Thank you. Chris Tobin.
Here.
Jane Belinga.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Warrington.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Purcell.
Alexander. Here.
Terry Wilkinson. Marcy Johnson for ISBE. Yep, I see her.
Here. I couldn't get unmuted. I'm here.
Thank you. Anthony Furman.
Here.
Brian Durham.
Here.
Grace Howe. Nina Tangman for IBHE. And Natasha Allen for ICCD CTE. Here. Thank you.
We have quorum.
We have four.
Thank you so much, Amy. With that, let's move right into the minutes of March 16th, which was our last meeting. If anyone has any corrections or edits that we need to do, please announce that at this point. If not, that's for approval. I need a first and second, please.
First.
First.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a couple seconds there. That's good enough for me. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes, got it. Thank you so much. It's approved. Okay, with that, again, we have quite a bit that we need to cover today. So let's move right into our Iowa co-chair and director, Richards. Make some announcements here.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Derek, for the warm welcome. It's always nice to be back in Madison County. I grew up in southwestern Illinois, and so this is forever home. So happy to join you in person in Collinsville today. I joked with Tony when I walked in the door that I think I've seen him every month since I've been in the job in January, and to me, that's a really good sign. It's a sign of not only all of the activity we have going on at the agency that requires partnership with workforce agencies, local workforce agencies, but also our real commitment to continuing to collaborate closely with workforce agencies and foster those relationships. They're so important. They're so important. What I'd like to do is ask the new members of the board, we have welcomed new members in the last number of months, and I'd like to ask the new members of the board to just please introduce themselves. I'm not intending to call on anyone, but if you're so inclined to introduce yourselves to the group, that would be wonderful. Governor Pritzker has made some phenomenal appointments to the Illinois Workforce Investment Board, who are bringing a cross-sector of expertise from labor, business, nonprofits. These are people who have lots of experience and have been part of many, many success stories across the state of Illinois. So we really want to welcome them today to their very first meeting. Perhaps our team, Julio, could help us out with this one too.
So why don't we, actually, since Dan is right here, I think he's one of our newest members.
Take it, Dan.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Daniel Soroto with Aon, Vice President of Government and Public Affairs. Part of the hat I wear is the co-founder and lead on the Chicago Apprentice Network, which is something we created to continue to grow jobs, but also partner with employers to look at different types of pathways around apprenticeship programs. So excited to be here and get further engaged on the apprenticeship committee.
I think there's anyone else here in person, right? Okay, so who's on?
Kara.
Kara, do you want to introduce yourself now?
Sure, I'm Kara Demerjen, and I'm the president of DCC Marketing and the vice president of TCCI Manufacturing. I'm really excited to be part of this group. I work across many fields, both in economic development as our past chairman of our economic development for Macon County. I'm also an executive director for the Illinois Manufacturers Association. And we are the first, TCCI Manufacturing is the first company in Illinois to receive REV last year. And we're getting ready to invest $56 million in a new EV innovation hub here in Decatur, Illinois. So very excited to be part of this group and looking forward to participating.
Very nice.
Well,
Kevin? Yeah, welcome. Kevin, you want to go next?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Good morning. I'm Kevin Irvine. My pronouns are he, him. I am a senior talent acquisition consultant at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. I've been at Rush about 5 years. My role is kind of a unique one in that I am recruiting people with all types of disabilities and chronic health conditions, and also veterans and people who live in the West Side neighborhoods of Chicago, part of our anchor mission strategy. I've been a disability rights advocate and trainer for over 30 years. My most recent full-time job before Rush was with an organization called Equip for Equality, which is a statewide legal advocacy agency for people with disabilities. So I work on disability inclusion at Rush as well, co-chair of our Americans with Disabilities Act Task Force and facilitator for our Disabilities Employee Resource Group, and facilitate our participation in the Disability Equality Index as a best place to work for disability inclusion. I'm passionate about disability rights and disability inclusion and including other kind of underrepresented voices in employment. My life experience includes having hemophilia B, the bleeding disorder, and HIV. So I also have a spouse and a 17-year-old daughter with disabilities. So it's kind of like family business, but great to be part of this this board. I love the work you're doing. I look forward to being able to contribute from here in Chicago. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Steve now.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve LeFavor. I am the current Director of Apprenticeship and Training for Painters District Council 30 and the North Central Illinois Finishing Trades Institute. We provide apprenticeship programs for the construction trades of painter, decorator, industrial painter, glazer, and drywall finisher. So I've got 27 years in the construction and post-secondary educational side of things on this side. And I also sit on the local workforce development board and executive committee, youth committee, and all that for Area 5, Kane, Kendall, and Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb counties.
Thank you. Now we turn to Cheryl Morrison. Sorry.
That's okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Cheryl Morris here. I'm the executive director for Unite Here Chicago Hospitality Institute. And we are a labor management organization that is the first of its kind to the state of Illinois to have the U.S. Department of Labor occupational registration for chef de partie, only second in the nation to Los Angeles Hospitality Training Academy. And our mission is to upskill incumbent workers within the hospitality industry and to also bring in new talent, working really to bring people in that really don't have a vision or any idea of kind of how to intersect with the hospitality industry. Born out of Unite Here Local 1 Union in partnership with more than 50 corporate partners within Chicago and the Northwest Indiana area. And I think that I'm really excited to be here because one of my big passions has been to get a better sense and kind of get a better pulse check on how our workforce system decisions are made, and to be to learn, but to also see how I can be an impact, kind of a change leader as it relates to our work, not only locally, statewide, but how can we actually be kind of a best practice nationally and internationally as well. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Volka?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mboka Malambwe, and I am the mayor of the city of Bloomington in central Illinois. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great, thank you. Alex Burrow?
Purcell, yes. So hello, everyone. Alexander Purcell. I'm the Director of HR at United Airlines. I've been at United for about 10 years. I have previous experience in manufacturing, also worked at the Chicago Transit Authority for a while. My passion is people, figuring out how to create organizations that support and help people be successful in those organizations and also hire talented people. My background is organizational development. I have experience in performance management, employee engagement. At United, part of our passion as well is creating pipelines to help meet our workforce needs, but also provide opportunities for those that don't normally have those opportunities. So we're building pipelines for pilots. We built pipelines for mechanics. Recently, I've been very involved in creating a pipeline for our technologists. So that includes apprenticeship, 2-year apprenticeship, where our aspiration is to hire 500 people over the next 5 years.
Great, thank you. Christopher Toppin?
Hello, everybody. Chris Toppin, work with AAR. Our business is aviation as well, and similar challenges as well. Recruiting mechanics is the main thing that we're concerned about. Our biggest challenge. We're a mid-sized company, about 5,000 employees. My job title is Vice President of Human Resources for the division that I support, which is the bulk of that business is MRO stations across the country. Also working on building pipelines. We got some good skill bridge programs with the military. I'm actually in an airport. I apologize for the background noise. I'm on my way down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where we got installations at 7 bases where we're helping veterans transition out, talking to them about opportunities in the aviation industry. So excited about that. I grew up in North Carolina, relocated to Illinois in 2019, been with AR going on 4 years, and excited to be on this board.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Jane Valinka.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Chicago Women I'm the Executive Director of Chicago Women in Trades. I kind of skipped ahead there. Chicago Women in Trades is a 40-year-old tradeswomen's organization, and we train, prepare, support women in construction careers. We provide technical assistance to employers and industry stakeholders to improve their capacity to recruit and retain women in these careers. And we are advocates for policies and practices that support women's careers in the industry. So in this kind of really special time with all this infrastructure money coming down, we're very happy to have an opportunity to contribute to ensuring that women have equitable opportunity to train and enter careers in construction. So thanks again for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. Actually, we have one more first. I feel like one of those talk shows. Actually, Kaylee from Google, would you like to present yourself? Thank you.
I am the head of North America for Google for Startups. I'm based in Chicago. Oh, wow, I can see in the reflection in the room that I'm on a very large screen, so I'm going to back up here. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person, but Google for Startups in the US, we support early stage Black and Latinx startup founders. We've got a Black Founders Fund, a Latino Founders Fund. I've been at Google 15 years. I'm on the board here in Chicago of 1871, where I also work with various kinds of startups, but really excited to join. Thanks for having me.
Great. Is there anyone else who just recently joined us, who's both on the board and in the meeting before we go back to the agenda? Okay, one other public service announcement. Those of you that are in the room, if you can just either use a microphone or just project louder for people to hear you, because the mics aren't necessarily picking up everyone, so just be cognizant of speaking up.
Thank you, Julio, for this assist. Thank you. And thank you again to our new members for taking the time to join us this afternoon and also just accepting the charge. We're really excited to work with all of you. I do want to draw everyone's attention to the agenda for just a minute. You're going to see that we're going to receive an update from Christy George, the First Assistant Deputy Governor, over budget and economy for Governor Pritzker. That update is going to include information on some measures that passed the General Assembly when they wrapped their legislative session this May, along with some budget items that may be of interest to members of the IWIB. Just as an agenda note, Kaz Peters, my colleague at DCEO, will be providing the business development initiatives and funding update on behalf of DCEO. We'll also be hearing from my colleague Norman Murano, who administers our Illinois Works program, a program that he has in effect born and developed into something that all of us are very, very proud to be just associated with. So looking forward to the update from Norman on his efforts there. And then finally, we'll be hearing from Christine Haley. Christine is with the Department of Human Services and on Governor Pritzker's behalf administers the Home Illinois Plan. So looking forward to some updates. We hope that the members of the board will find them informational. And finally, because one of the other hats I wear at DCEO is playing the hype woman for any areas of the state I'm visiting, I want to encourage all of you that might be in the Metro East for your very first time to take advantage of stopping by some of the attractions and small businesses that we have in the area. You're just a few miles away from Cahokia Mounds, which is the largest pre-Columbian Native American city in North America. It's a state historic site. You have a great Italian restaurant, Mungo's, right up the road. If I had time after this meeting, I would stop by Dairy Haven and Caseyville for an ice cream cone. So please just take advantage of being in this region of the state and spending some time visiting some of our attractions and small businesses. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I think we might be ready to send it over to Drew.
Yep. Actually, right before Drew, I just want to, again, as we already welcomed the new members, but I do want to see if we could get a roster list of all the members and make sure the new members end up getting the roster. And we want all the new members to feel free to reach out to each of us board members to get better ideas on what we do, why we do it, and the functions, why we prevail in what we're doing here, and take a look at some of the committees that you may want to join at the same time. So again, thank you for joining, and we look forward for a great venture that we always have in the IWIB world. So thank you for being here. With that, then I'll go right into Drew. Drew will give us the update on the United State Plan, Unified State Plan. Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Drew Thomason. I am with KEB. We're a firm out of Springfield that has been involved in the workforce system in some fashion or another for almost 40 years now. Currently, we provide technical assistance to local areas, technical expertise around WIOA. We are a neutral convener for all of the programs that make up WIOA in Illinois, and we also help facilitate statewide activities. And that is why I'm here today to talk to you about the development of the WIOA State Plan. Next. So first and foremost, the WIOA State Plan is a compliance document. It's required to be created every 4 years. All states have to do it. Our next state plan is due in March of 2024. We currently have a content team that is working on creating the compliance-related content for that plan. They meet at least monthly and to check in on the progress that is being made. That consists of program administrators, programmatic experts, and data people. They have a meeting next week, in fact, to talk about some of the compliance-related content and updates. But the state plan is also more than that. It's the vision of the governor's integration of workforce, education, and economic development policy and programs in the state of Illinois. So in the state, we like to not only use it as a compliance piece, but also as a way to give us direction over the next 4 years. So as the IWIB, your role is, as defined by law, is to advise in the development and implementation of the state plan. Next slide. So I'm going to be coming to you as long as you'll allow me on your agenda for the rest of the calendar year, these quarterly meetings, to provide updates to you on the progress that is being made in the development of that plan, seek feedback to ensure that as we develop the actual content for it, it's reflecting the reality that you see in your role day to day. I'll also be attending many of your committee meetings monthly when it's appropriate to give updates or seek feedback specific to what those committees are charged with, whether that's the Continuous Improvement Committee, Apprenticeship Committee, or the Executive Committee. So right here, you can kind of see where we are in the development of the state plan. Many of you attended the governor's retreat on May 1st, where we had a visioning session to go over what direction we want to see the workforce system moving over the next 4 years. We appreciate that feedback, and we have taken that offline over the past month and a half and have been working to develop what I'm going to present to you in a little bit, and that's going to be the vision and draft goals for that plan. So if you go to the next slide. So here I just want to kind of give you the definitions in terms of the state plan, what we mean when we say vision and goals. So the vision is the overarching direction for the system. It's where we want to go over the next 4 years, and then the goals we're defining as the outcomes of the vision. So if we are successful in accomplishing that vision, what does it look like? So I'm going to quickly read you the current vision that was developed for the 2020 state plan that's in effect, and it is to foster a statewide workforce development system that supports the needs of individuals and businesses to ensure Illinois has a skilled workforce to effectively compete in the global economy. So that's the vision that has been guiding us for the past 4 years. It's the vision that helped get us through COVID and other things that had happened in the economy during that time. But as everyone knows, the pandemic and other socioeconomic events kind of laid bare some of the areas where we need to improve on in our workforce system. There's been quite a bit of work done around examining how we can improve the workforce system. The Governor's Commission on Workforce Equity and Access did a deep dive into how to increase equity and access. Your own, the IWIB Equity Task Force also examined that and has issued their report, and there's been other work done around the system. So with that in mind, and also given the feedback that we received on May 1st, we can go to the next slide. We have a draft vision for our new plan. And it is that Illinois' workforce system will meet employers, job seekers, and community members where they are, centering the customer experience in an interoperable, equitable, and accessible manner to ensure all customers achieve their goals. We will support employers by building diverse, quality career pathways and providing effective training, education, and economic opportunities for job seekers and communities to thrive. So that is our draft vision currently for the new plan. And I will be asking for feedback here in a little bit, but I want to get through 5 more slides. And those are the goals. So I'm going to you can read the goals on the screen, whether it's here in person or on your computer, but while you're reading that, I'm going to give you kind of the definition that we're working on around each goal. So for goal 1 here, we think that the system would provide excellent, empathetic, and comprehensive information and guidance to help people and businesses achieve their goals. The workforce system ensures that everyone is served with a spirit of excellence and compassion. The system meets every job seeker's employment and education training needs by actively listening and developing relationships with them. It is interoperable, it addresses the whole person, and the system is aware of and responsive to people's multifaceted social identities. That's goal 1. Goal 2. Here, we think that the system will offer services that ensure job seeker skills meet the needs of employers. The system will adapt quickly to provide training and upskilling around emerging industries in the state. Goal 3. A lens of equity and access will be used when developing, administrating, and implementing workforce development programs. And the system will connect people with the resources they need, regardless of whether those resources are within or outside of the workforce development system. Goal 4. Here, the system will focus on connecting people with jobs that meet their goals and objectives. It connects Illinois workers to meaningful and quality opportunities, and it supports employers in creating and maintaining good jobs for those job seekers. Goal 5, Illinois' workforce and education systems will work in partnership with each other to maximize service offerings that best supports job seekers and employers, regardless of the funding stream or governing authority. And lastly, goal number 6, the system is the first stop for people when looking to engage in fulfilling work. The system is the first stop for employers looking for talented workers to address their labor needs. Job seekers, workers, and employers are aware of the wide range of services available to meet their needs. And all of these are developed, again, these are in draft form, but as we move forward, we always want to develop both a vision, goals, and a plan in general that can be easily evaluated for progress on our goals and our vision and our actions. And that's a key place for the IWIB to help us, especially, I'm thinking of the CIC committee, just make sure that we are on track with what we have said. So I know that's a lot to digest, but I will pause here if anyone has any questions and feedback. Barb?
Yeah, thanks, Drew, for that great presentation and update. And I know you and KEB have been with us for a while. Can you maybe highlight a couple of major differences between this state plan and previous ones?
No, but only, and I only say that because we're not far enough.
Okay.
I only say that because we're just aren't far enough along in development of actual content yet. I think the spirit around this state plan, the difference between the spirit of this plan and of previous ones is we're really looking beyond just WIOA. Again, obviously, it's a compliance document that has to meet certain standards for us to be eligible for WIOA funds from the federal government. But we also want to make sure that we are looking at other opportunities to collaborate across the program, so we have a much more unified workforce system as opposed to being siloed. An example of that is in the apprenticeship committee this morning. There's a 5-year apprenticeship plan that they're working on because of a grant that they received. We're working very closely to ensure that those two plans work together as opposed to running parallel or at worst working against each other.
Anyone else? The person that's coughing?
I can take a hint. All right.
Thank you, Drew, for that presentation. Just in time for my cough. In our organization, I'm always challenged in different divisions and teams. Are we better than our competitors. Is there any language that says that we're striving to be the best in what we're doing?
Not yet, but I think that's certainly something for consideration.
That's a very good suggestion. I also have a suggestion. Is there anything in there that states sustainability in either in your mission or division?
Not yet. Again, I think you've seen most of the content that's been developed.
Right.
That is certainly something that.
It's kind of hard with a twisted knife here to the left, but.
I think that's something certainly that should be considered.
The only reason why I say that is because a lot of employers like to hear that, for one. We don't want to always hear just this programs because they come and go. Sometimes when sustainability is being entered, it seems that we're there for the long run.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from online? All right, I just have two more quick things, if you know the next slide. So I just want to give you the next steps. We will distribute this draft vision and goals both to this group as well as to that May 1st group, and solicit your feedback that way too. So don't feel like this is your only chance. We want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and all of your perspectives are included in this document. As I said, that content team is currently working on the first half of the plan. A lot of that is around an analysis. It's an economic analysis, labor market analysis, an analysis of the current workforce system, what we're doing well, where we can improve. And at your September meeting, I hope to come back and kind of present a more content-rich presentation that includes the work that group is doing. And with that, I've got my contact information up there. Again, we'll be emailing out this, but I'm always available to talk about this and love to hear any feedback around the development of the plan.
Good job. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Yeah, it's fun.
Sure. If Christy is available, is Christy on? She's on?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm on.
Christy. All right, well, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to introduce Christy George, First Assistant Deputy Governor to the Illinois Workforce Investment Board. Christy is going to provide us with a briefing on business development initiatives, or pardon me, on legislative achievements, budget highlights, other need-to-know items from members of the board.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Richards. All right. Molly, oh, perfect. Thank you. And hopefully you can drive on the screen as well. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christy George, First Assistant Deputy Governor for Budget and Economy. I've worked for Governor Pritzker in this capacity since February of 2021, as we were kind of still reeling from the pandemic. And before that, I was the Executive Director of the Commerce Commission and previously worked for the City of Chicago in various capacities. So very excited to be here with you today. I'm going to spend the bulk of my time talking about budget updates. I'll highlight a few legislative initiatives throughout this discussion. And I'll save a couple of things because I don't want to steal Taz's thunder or Norman's or Christine's. At the top, the fiscal year 24 budget, all funds generally is roughly 119 billion. That includes, over 50 billion, 60 billion in federal funds. But as it relates to the general funds, it includes 50.6 billion in projected revenues, 50.4 billion in projected spend, and that would leave a resulting kind of operating surplus of 183. We'll talk about a few different investments in several areas. We are primarily focused today on the general revenue funds, or GRF.
Big investments that we'll talk through are in the areas of fiscal responsibility, early childhood, K through 12, higher ed. Also, the governor's efforts to prevent and combat homelessness. That's in the Governor's Home Illinois plan. And then, of course, in employment and economic development, those investments are across various agencies. And we will also talk through our progress in addressing some of the challenges related to the state's internal workforce. So again, these are highlights, they are not exhaustive, but given that the state's budget is its value statement, I'll kind of go over these investments, and they're more so illustrative of the governor's commitments. I'm also going to apologize in advance because I'm going to go through these investments relatively quickly. And also I apologize for your eyes because I have no pretty charts or graphs. These are just numbers. So bear with me here. All right, so at the top, you know, the principal marker of the governor's first term was fiscal responsibility. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've addressed systemic challenges, reducing the state's structural deficit, passing balanced budgets, and putting the state back on track for success. Here in the fiscal year 24 budget, we have 3 key commitments that go to that piece of fiscal responsibility. First, we have an additional $200 million payment towards our pensions. This brings our total pension stabilization efforts to $700 million for this year. Second, we have some legacy bond payoff, debt payoff for our rail splitter bonds to the tune of $450 million. This payment alone is estimated to save this state roughly $60 million in interest costs, so pretty significant there. Third, we worked with stakeholders and legislators to develop a plan to address the long-term structural deficit in the Community College Insurance Program, or CIP. This is a health insurance program for retired community college employees, and was a pretty significant effort. I know what some of you may be thinking, what does any of this have to do with workforce development writ large? But I'm highlighting some of these investments because the well-being, we believe deeply that the well-being of the state's benefit systems and its healthcare plans are critical components to maintaining a healthy and thriving state economy and workforce. So we view these investments as really critical to ensure that the state stays in a strong financial state, and that we continue to be competitive, we continue to attract corporate investment and corporate relocations. And with that corporate investment, we are able to, of course, build a workforce. And to that point, you know, we've had a lot of success here in the fiscal responsibility realm. We've had 8 credit rating upgrades in the last 2 years. Our rainy day fund is on track to exceed $2 billion. Just for context here, when the governor stepped into office in 2019, our rainy day fund was $60,000, which is a millisecond. Yes, exactly. People are laughing. It is a millisecond in state spending. And so this is a pretty significant shift for both the governor and the legislature to now have over $2 billion in funding for the rainy day fund. We've also paid down over $10 billion in debt, and we've eliminated a $17 billion bill backlog. At the height of our bill backlog, that was back in 2015, 2016-ish, we had $17 billion in bills that we had not paid. We are now in a 30-day payment cycle, having paid off all of those bills. So really incredible progress, considering that we had to weather through the pandemic, make a ton of structural revenue changes, and we are now in a better financial state than we've been in decades. Next slide. So critically important to the governor's platform and generally for the governor's policy position is education. And Smart Start Illinois is the governor's key marquee program for early childhood education. Smart Start Illinois is a multi-year $250 million commitment to eliminate preschool deserts, stabilize the childcare workforce, and expand the early intervention and home visiting programs administered by DHS. So as that 250 million is broken down, 75 million goes to ISB for their early childhood block grant, specifically targeted towards increasing the number of preschool spots in deserts. The goal is to eliminate those preschool deserts by December 2027 through adding 20,000 slots for preschool age children. This would bring the total funding for the block grant to 673 million, which is about 170 million more than when the governor first took office. So a very significant investment. In addition to that, we have 130 million for early childhood workforce compensation contracts to help stabilize the operational funding that many of these providers are facing. They saw kind of this massive increase during the pandemic for operational funding coming from the federal government. But as we all know, that those funds are not necessarily ones that we should be relying upon day to day. And so here we are including 130 million to help stabilize the workforce there. Just a note here that this is a recommendation stemming from the Early Childhood Funding Commission that was previously led by Deputy Governor Andy Manar when he was in his legislative capacity as state senator. In addition to that, we have 40 million for EI programs, and that's to address kind of an increase in anticipated participants in the program. It also includes, from a workforce perspective, a 10% raise for providers here, just recognizing the needs for that workforce. And then lastly, we have 5 million to expand DHS's home visiting program that impacts pregnant families and young children that have special needs. And we see it as an opportunity, to expand that program. Next here, a couple of things that I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with, evidence-based funding. This is something that the governor is committed to, also came out of the Early Childhood Funding Commission, but we have a $350 million increase to EBF, so very significant, and continues the governor's commitment. We also have interesting workforce program here. It's a pilot program to fill teacher vacancies, particularly in Tier 1 schools. We are starting a 3-year program to do this, and our first kind of down payment initial investment is 45 million. Next slide. Also critically important is higher ed. This is for our friends at our public universities and community colleges. We have a number of investments here, but the most exciting one is the MAP grant increase. Last year, we had an increase of 122 million, which was historic. We have now done an additional 100 million in this year's budget. This brings our total MAP program funding to over $700 million. And this will mean that virtually everyone at or below the median income level can go to community college for free. Incredible investments that the governor has been able to direct. As some of you may recall, when the governor came into office, he pledged a 75% increase in MAP grants. With this last step, with this last increase of 100 million, he has done that. So we are very excited for this. Secondly, another historic investment is $100 million to community colleges and public universities to assist with their operating costs. This is the highest increase to public universities and community colleges in more than 2 decades. So this is just to assist with their operational costs. So it's pretty significant as well. Next, we have a handful of community college specific investments. Brian Durham, I know he's in the room. He knows that I harassed him about these multiple times as we were putting together the budget. So you can thank him for these investments. But really, these stemmed from conversations that we were having about emerging industries, where we are seeing the workforce trends in the state. How do we align it with the state's economic development plan that's led by DCEO? How can we align it to some of the business attraction efforts and the corporate relocation trends that we were seeing, and the activity that we were seeing? So here we have to help kind of foster some of those employer and community college relationships. We have $8.3 million for dual credit and non-credit workforce programs. We have $11 million for curriculum development, specifically to go towards EV, advanced manufacturing, and data center workforce training programs. These were specific needs that we heard from employers that we needed to start building that out to help build that workforce. Next, one of the key things, and you'll see it in two different places here, but it's how we've supplemented our WIOA funding. We've heard from both the Governor's Commission on Workforce Equity and Access, as well as other stakeholders, and of course from various members of this body, that the state needs to start making additional efforts to put funding towards supplementing our title programs through WIOA. So here we have a $2 million investment to supplement WIOA 2 specifically for technology upgrades for digital instruction. We also have $750,000 to expand English language services, here focusing on the increase in marginalized populations all throughout the state. Other critical investments that you see here, $3.8 million, an increase to the Minority Teacher Scholarship Program, $15 million increase to the AIM High Scholarship Program, again, to help make going to a university actually attainable. And then lastly here, $25 million to be the second installment for the PATH program. This is a program led by the community colleges, particularly Dr. Sheila Quirk-Bailey was instrumental in helping to design this. We kind of modeled this program specifically for healthcare workers as we were coming off of the heels of recovering from the pandemic, trying to develop that pipeline for healthcare workers, for nurses, because we see that as a critical workforce that we need to continue to build and maintain here, and retain here in the state. So it's really built off of the Workforce Equity Initiative, which many of the community colleges administer and implement. But this is the second year of 3 years of funding, and seeing great progress in that program already. Next slide. All right, I am going to talk just about Home Illinois at a very, very high level, because you will hear a whole presentation about it relatively soon. But this is the governor's marquee program to prevent homelessness. I'm not going to steal Christine's thunder, but at a very high level, Home Illinois includes an $85 million increase in funding. It brings total funding to 350-ish million. And its whole focus is to support homelessness prevention and crisis response efforts. One interesting facet here, and kudos and credit to Deputy Director Julio Rodriguez here, is that we have a $5 million increase in JTED funding specifically for this population. So to address issues and workforce barriers that homeless adults and youth face. So he partnered with Deputy Governor Sol Flores to kind of tailor this program, and it will be an exciting effort in the coming year. Next slide. All right, this is one of my favorite areas, because I spend so much time focusing on DCEO and IDES and a couple of other agencies. But you know, what you'll see in kind of the next 3 slides is that there's There's multiple agency investments here, but they essentially tell one simple story, just that the governor is committed to fostering a workforce ecosystem that supports its job seekers, it supports businesses, and it supports its community stakeholders. All of these investments reflect those goals and the vision that Drew shared at the top. So first here, starting with employment, one of the key investments that the legislature made in the last 18 months was the Reimagined Public Safety Act. It's a large focus on reducing gun violence, particularly in urban areas all throughout the state. Included in that is a $250 million investment. It's multi-year funding, and there are some very important youth employment programs there. We also have, in addition to that, $41 million for youth employment and summer jobs over at DHS. We are continuing funding for JTED and ETIP, two programs that are very successful, very important at DCEO. We've also included here, to my earlier point, some supplemental funding for WIOA Title I to help address some of the population shift that we've seen. We have $10 million here to develop a new clean energy career and technical education pilot program. This will be a partnership between DCEO and ISB. We also have $25 million to increase the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, which many of you know of and are engaged with, but this is really aimed and focused on ensuring more access from minorities, persons of color, and women in the construction trades. So Norman will talk a bit about that later on. And then we also have a $2 million increase to a workforce program at IDOC that trains incarcerated adults in welding and helps them with job placement once they are released. This is actually a federally funded program, but we expanded it with state funding to help reach more facilities and participants. On the entrepreneurship front, we have a new $10 million investment at DCEO to fund a one-stop business portal with the goal to foster entrepreneurship and help individuals get streamlined access to state resources and regulatory requirements. Sorry, did I miss someone? Did someone say something?
Nope.
Nope, I should keep going? Okay, thank you. And in addition to that, we have $16.5 million at IDFPR to help them completely revamp their licensing system. Now, anybody that has ever dealt with IDFPR's licensing system knows that it is old and antiquated, and it takes forever to get a license, and we know that. So we are putting money into that to help drastically reduce that license processing and wait times, so that we can get people to do their work as quickly as they possibly can. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. 1.8 million in additional funding that would go towards our SBDCs and our PTACs, which for folks that aren't familiar with that, that's our small business development centers and our procurement technical assistance centers, which help small businesses get access to government contracts. All right, and on the business and economic development side, you'll hear a bit more about this from Kaz Peters, but we have included a few new programs really focused on business attraction, but to be partners to employers. We have a fast track workforce program. We actually took this from one of our board members, one of our very new board members, AAR in Rockford. The state provides them with a workforce grant of $2.6 million. We thought we should expand this, do that tenfold to the rest of the state, and help foster some partnerships between LWIAs and employers. So this 20 million will go towards that, plus other business attraction purposes. We have two new funds. We have a $400 million closing fund and a $90 million enterprise fund. So these are both business attraction tools to help us increase the number of large, impactful, and innovative projects. The closing fund is primarily focused on EV, semiconductor, very large projects. Think 1 billion in CapEx and, you know, a couple thousand jobs. And the enterprise fund is more so focused on projects that are a little bit smaller than that, but that also have a large impact to a region of the state. We have 55 million for prime sites. This is to provide infrastructure dollars to new businesses coming to the state. We have 20 million in rebuilding downtown and main streets grants for community revitalization to help local areas attract new businesses. We did one round of this using a mix of ARPA funding and capital dollars last year. The program was oversubscribed. It was so incredibly popular. So we thought, let's try to do another round to help get dollars out to local areas and help them beautify their spaces, do infrastructure improvements to help attract new businesses. One of my favorites here, because we've done so much related to cannabis, particularly not just, you know, permitting it, you know, allowing for it, legalizing it here in Illinois, but also with this focus on social equity businesses. DCO has done some excellent work in reshaping the forgivable loan program. And we now have a new $40 million appropriation to help get capital out to those businesses, which are primarily owned by Black and brown all throughout the state. So that is exciting. And then lastly, the legislature expanded the angel investment tax credit. It was capped at 25%. It's now 35%. So we should see some additional investment there, which is great. Next slide. All right, lastly, there's, you know, I think we spend a lot of time talking about the external workforce that doesn't have to do necessarily with the state. But we have, because of the pandemic and just because of kind of the situation of where we were with the state when the governor came in office, you know, there were some agencies that were hollowed out. They were, you know, and the pandemic exposed some of that. And we've had to work pretty diligently over the last several years to increase our staffing levels in various areas. So we more recently have focused on speeding up our hiring times. The labor market, it's incredibly competitive. The private sector is obviously able to hire faster than the state is. But one thing that we have done to help try to maintain our competitiveness is switch to a fully electronic process and less on a manual process, paper-based process. So SB 2228 is a bill that was passed by the General Assembly this past session. Deputy Governor Andy Manar and myself, we worked this bill personally over 2 legislative sessions. And the goal here was to reduce hiring times by aligning the process that's outlined in statute to the electronic process. And we were able to get that bill passed and to help make that shift. So we're very excited about that. It is not going to solve all of our hiring woes and problems, but it is a step in the right direction. Another step that we've taken as it relates to the state's internal workforce is we've included funding for the state to do a recruitment and marketing contract to help market its positions and recruit as many people as we possibly can to fill our vacancies. We are hyper-focused on filling positions at our 24/7 agencies. These are agencies where we have really critical needs. We are caring for the most vulnerable people here in the state. And in addition to that, we also have legal requirements like consent decrees that we are trying to ensure our compliance with. So we have funding in the state budget for that. One historic investment that we've also made is we've put in roughly 60 million over 2 fiscal years to help shore up the operations at IDES. What we saw is a decrease in federal funds at IDES, which was pretty significant. And so we've included roughly 60 million in GRF funds to help ensure that their operations are not impacted. We have also included funding, and this is a relatively small investment, but I do think that it's critically important, is that we've included a demographer, funding for a demographer at IDES, so that we can better understand population and labor market trends and have that resource internally, and then we don't have to pay for it externally. And to that note, we also have some additional headcount at DCEO. We've included 1 headcount for state workforce programs at DCEO. You know, obviously we're seeing an increase in federal funds for programs like dislocated workers and other pilot programs, but we are also doing more with state workforce programs, and so we need headcount for that. So we've started with 1 state-funded headcount that would assist on workforce programs. And then lastly, for DCFS and for ISP, these are just examples of things areas where we've kind of drastically increased staff. DCFS, we've included funding for 192 new staff and other resources. And then for ISP, last year we did 300 new state troopers. That is, again, an agency that was pretty drastically hollowed out and under prior administrations. You know, this year we have an additional 200 sworn troopers, so 2 cadet classes that we've added, and to help increase our resources in public safety. So really exciting for that there. One thing I forgot to list here that I should have is also the investments that we are putting into the Department of Labor. The Illinois Department of Labor under a prior administration, again, those resources were pretty significantly declined. And since we've had a number of legislative initiatives that have passed, for example, prevailing wage, paid leave, you know, a number of those things, we've had to consistently add staff to enforce those laws. So I don't have those numbers before me today, but that is something that we are very much focused on, and something that we've included in the last couple of budgets. All right, so I know that was a lot, but hopefully that was helpful in shedding light on the state's budgetary investments. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Hi, Christy, this is Dave Friedman. I had a question about technology and data infrastructure. Was there any consideration of, or any investment made in improving the data infrastructure so that we can have better data for decision-making across the workforce system?
As it relates to our workforce system, we do have, and that's something that I know the Governor's Commission on Workforce Equity and Access identified. We know that there have been investments as it relates to the ILDS. We are also actively going after federal funds for system modernization, particularly as it relates to the unemployment insurance system. I do think we need to have more, I think what would be helpful for me is to have kind of a bona fide plan for data modernization. And I would be open to talking to the board more about that and how we could develop a budget proposal to take to the General Assembly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? How about some of the members online? Is there any questions from you? Not hearing any. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Christy, for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Next, I'd like to introduce Kaz Peters. Kaz is going to be providing an update from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity on our business development initiatives and some of the work that we're doing in our BD shop. And Kaz, are you on? It's difficult to see.
Yes, I am.
Well, great. All right. Take it
Hopefully
away.
you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you, Director Richards. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaz Peters, and I'm a Senior Advisor at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Looking forward to giving a little bit of an update on all the work that's happening in the business development space at the Department of Commerce. And I just wanted to start by sharing a little bit of an agenda that I think would be helpful to cover. And obviously we'll end up with questions so we can have a little bit of a dialogue. But one of the things we wanted to do was share some of the progress and updates that we've been able to accomplish from 2022. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the programs that we've had already in existence and the ways in which we've made improvements and been able to secure more capital investment, create more jobs, support large and small businesses all across the state. So we'll spend a little time talking about that. And then the next topic we'll talk about is sort of what's in the actual business development pipeline. What type of projects are we seeing? What sectors are they coming from? They're increasingly larger and larger and moving very quickly. So we'll have some, I'll do a quick presentation on the business development pipeline and what we're seeing just at a macro level. And then we've had, as Christy mentioned, just tremendous, I've been calling it the business development revolution. So we have really upgraded every single toolkit, every single tool in the DCO toolbox regarding business development. So we definitely will spend a lot of our time talking about those legislative updates, what that means for our business development efforts. I do want to anchor here that we've been particularly thoughtful with focusing in on clean energy manufacturing, electric vehicle manufacturing, battery manufacturing, but also from an attraction and development standpoint, but also from a retention standpoint. So we'll talk about the ways in which the updates and improvements to the legislative statutes and tools and programs that DCO has have been really focused on business attraction, development, and retention. Like I said, we'll also round up with opportunity for a Q&A. So we'll spend some time at the end on that. So as I mentioned, we really have had a robust last set of years with with more than $1.9 billion in capital committed to the state through our traditional program called EDGE, or Economic Development for a Growing Economy, with nearly 7,000 jobs created. Another really tremendous program that we've seen just take off is our data center tax credit program, with almost $5 billion committed to the state and 330 jobs. And this marries nicely with some of the workforce investments that we've heard from our data center business groups and the workforce investment in data centers, particularly that Christy highlighted before. And then lastly, we wanted to talk a little bit about our Advantage Illinois program, which is a small business loan participation program that where we've directly supported $37 million worth of low interest loans with almost more than 1,300 jobs. We'll talk a little bit about this one too with a focus on equity. We're tremendously proud of the way in which we've been able to diversify the regional impact of Advantage Illinois, but also focus in on minority women-owned businesses in a really important and successful way. So I always like to say that I'm not exactly counting, but I'm exactly counting our success. So I pay very close attention to the performance of our various programs. And one of the things I really want to sort of anchor in on is we've just seen an enormous amount of success with our economic development program called EDGE. And I would like to compare the pre-pandemic years of 2019, $348 million of capital investment, with last year we had over $1 billion of capital investment. So, you know, almost tripling the capital investment from pre-pandemic years. And I know we also very much focus in on job creation, and you can see similar growth in job creation from 2019, where we were at 1,600, over 1,600, to almost 1,000 more in 2022 at more than 2,600 new jobs created. So again, really just from both a capital investment standpoint, from a job creation standpoint, our EDGE program has been tremendous asset, and we've leveraged it all across the state with tremendous success. So the other thing I know I was going to mention a little bit about Advantage Illinois, and here you'll see the similar graphs where increases are on the right in 2022. Again, in 2019, we had a total of 40 loans that were issued, with almost more than doubling that in 2022 with 95 loans, and an increase in FAME. And so the FAME is, that's the minority women-owned businesses. So while we've even doubled the number of loans, we've doubled them in a way that really does focus in on increasing our outreach to minority women-owned businesses. And similarly, you can see the amount loaned out has significantly grown, in addition to just the number of loans and the number of FAME or minority women-owned business loans. I know I talked a little bit about the regional distribution of Advantage Illinois loans. And as you can see, in 2021, we were predominantly focused in on providing loans in the northern state line and the Northeast. And in 2022, you'll see a lot more pink, or the blue shade, the purple shade, where we really were able to reach all 10 economic development regions with this small business development, with small business loan program via Advantage Illinois. And I want to make sure we shout out the team at DCO for really being our boots on the ground in a way that reaches the local communities all across the state. And so we really have seen, I just want to underscore what I'm really saying here. We doubled the amount of loans, we doubled the number of loans, we increased the equity in the loans, and we increased the regional diversity of where the loans are. So I think that really is a tremendous asset that we have, and in partnership with the federal government, the Advantage Illinois program is going to be receiving a significant increase in capital. So we really are excited about continuing to leverage this important loan participation program for small businesses in what we all know is a high interest rate market, where we want to continue to support small businesses, which, you know, are the backbone of our economy. So this has really been a tremendous program that we've seen a lot of success. My contact information is at the end, so I would love to get a lot of referrals. And so we have money available, so please reach out to us or your team representative, OET. We really would love to make sure we are able to support leverage this program, or continue to leverage this program and the growth trajectory that we've seen so far. So that was a little bit about our 2022 success. I'm going to talk a little bit, like I said, about our business development pipeline, what we're currently seeing in terms of types of projects, sectors, speed to market. These are all really important things that we're seeing at a macro level be really impactful and important to the businesses about where they're making their site selection decisions ultimately. So the sectors that we're really seeing expanding so far really are in the logistics distribution, or transportation distribution and logistics. This is just a tremendous strength for the state. I know you all are very familiar with the TD&L space, but we continue to see projects that focus in on TD&L. As we've also shared, this is really an exciting time in the electric vehicle green energy manufacturing space. And I'll tip my hand a little bit about the legislative updates. We've expanded The REV program, we've been renamed it to make it broader. So we will talk a little bit about how the Reimagining Energy and Vehicles program has really nicely marries with this increased interest in clean energy manufacturing that really does focus in on renewable energy component parts, green material manufacturing, energy storage, all the things that we know we need in order to have a clean energy economy and be able to support the goals that the governor has set out under CEJA and more broadly, critical to combating climate change. So the next sector we have is around food manufacturing and precision fermentation. So these also lay into our successes and assets regarding agriculture, food tech, the future of food, future of sustainable food. And these are all things that we really are excited about being able to see come our way, but also sort of have a strong position in being able to win projects that really cover the span. This is just a short list. But I do think the other thing that's really important to anchor in on is just how robustly large our current business development pipeline is. At this very moment, we're competing for more than $15,000 jobs and $17 billion worth of projects. So, Christy, Director Richards, Becky, myself, the entire DCO team, busy, fast at work, competing for every project possible. And we're really excited about having such a robust pipeline. I think that's also an exciting time to be a DCO and have these new tools, leveraging so much opportunity for the state to create jobs and win capital investment. So I know I mentioned that I would talk a little bit about legislative updates. So I plan to cover what has been a robust 8 months in our legislative partnership with the General Assembly, and talk a little bit about how those upgrades to particular programs. And I did get a little nerdy with citing some of the public acts. So if you are interested in reading along or knowing when bills were signed, I just wanted to highlight these. We've been successful in partnering with the General Assembly numerous times throughout the last 6 to 8 months, and just wanted to anchor in on we've made improvements at every moment possible to our business development toolkit. So that list down below talks about, and I'll go a little bit more slide by slide in each program, what the updates that we've made. But we've made updates to our EDGE program. We've made updates to our REV program, which is the Reimagining Energy and Vehicles, our micro program, which focuses on chip manufacturing and semiconductor microelectronic spaces, our high impact business program, enterprise zones, and also the creation of the Invest in Illinois Fund, which is, as Christy mentioned, our closing fund. So starting with the closing fund, this is a $400 million fund that really helps us compete for mega projects where companies are considering making billions of dollars of investment. And really, we've so far been able to leverage this program to help us focus in on those mega projects, large business development projects. And there, in partnership with the General Assembly, there are prerequisite approvals in order to receive the closing fund or Invest in Illinois grant. And essentially, we've been working directly with companies to make sure we leverage the Invest in Illinois Fund to remain competitive in what is clearly a highly competitive space for this capital investment and job creation. So on the EDGE side, this is something that I'll hone in on, but we essentially made some updates to modernize and reduce if you've heard such a thing as the but-for, which is potential challenges to receiving the EDGE program. And one of the things that was really significant about that is previously the statute required us to have an out-of-state option be cheaper than the current Illinois option to do business. And we got rid of that because it was essentially seen as being anti-competitive to our own business development purposes trying to assist businesses and leveraging the EDGE program to grow and retain their business. And so we're really excited about that. And thanks for letting me nerd out on sharing you the details of the but-for, but that one is really close to my heart, and I'm tremendously proud of us really moving in a direction that is competitive, that signals we want to assist businesses in growing and creating more jobs and making capital investment. And so the next one we have is our EDGE for Startups. So this is a program that focuses particularly on assisting startup businesses in ways in which are really critical when startup businesses have limited funds, and every dollar they have needs to be reinvested in their business in order to reach scale and to improve the viability of their business. One of the other things I said we would talk about was retention. So we really moved from, we were able to increase the benefits under EDGE for existing Illinois businesses by increasing the percentages for 50% for underserved areas and 25% statewide. Oh, excuse me. So the next one we have is our enterprise zone updates. And so one of the things we've really have heard from our local partners, enterprise zone administrators all across the state, is that they were running out of square miles for their existing enterprise zones. So we were able to partner with the General Assembly and essentially provide additional square miles for each of the different sized enterprise zones, which will be really helpful in our business attraction, but also our business retention efforts more broadly. And then we also focus in on increasing the jurisdiction municipalities that are eligible to receive Rivers Edge redevelopment zone benefits. Under the high impact business, we did the same modernization around but-for, and also instituted a clear renewal clause or a renewal capacity for DCO to issue renewals for high impact business designations. We also did expanded the eligibility for HIB to include cell cultured meat production, which is one of those future of food, clean energy, clean green production of food that we're seeing become increasingly present. And so the Reimagining Energy and Vehicles Act, this was previously the Reimagining Electric Vehicles Act. This is where we were able to expand the incentives that are available, competitive incentives that are available under Reimagining Energy and Vehicles, from just electric vehicles to all renewable energy, solar, renewable manufacturing, energy storage, and the component parts of each of those sectors. One of the things we also did was create a one-time renewal, which also increased the incentives as we continue to see a competitive landscape. On the micro side, this is our tax credit that focuses in on semiconductors and microchips. We were able to increase the benefits for retained employees, more clearly state how compensation requirements are to be managed. In addition to that, we did a one-time renewal as well to match our REV program.
Kaz,
So, yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, Kaz, but can you explain what the renewal means in terms
Yes,
of
so the-
timeline? Like how many years of benefits we're talking about?
Absolutely. So under the REV program for large projects, there was initially 15 years, and with the renewal, we are now able to offer incentive benefits for 30 years, which is a tremendous additional asset more broadly. Christy, did that cover it?
Yep. Can you also talk about the property tax piece?
Absolutely. So under REV, one of the things that we've been able to do is partner with local taxing body jurisdictions to, at their approval, the companies can receive property tax abatement for the life of the REV agreement, which can be up to the 30 years. Obviously, we do this as the state in partnership with locals and at locals approvals, but as one of our, it makes a competitive combination between state tax incentives, grant opportunities, and the reductions in property tax abatement from the local perspective. Okay, so I said some Q&A, and I hope I'm on the agenda, and I'll pass it appropriately to Norman. But here's my contact information. I'll drop that in the chat, and I will stop sharing so folks can ask a few questions.
Anyone with questions, please?
I have a question, if I might. I wonder, do you have any sort of market intel information that you typically do on how what you're doing compares to all of the states around here, so companies can, yeah, I guess you can figure out whether what you're doing is the right stuff, or are there other innovative things that other people are doing that businesses might appreciate?
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. We regularly are benchmarking our programs across other states, and we also have been leveraging some external expertise to do similar reviews so that we remain informed about what that competitive landscape is. In addition to that, sort of same and similar analysis looks at what natural assets and business strengths we have, and that helps us focus where we prioritize our efforts. You know, I've shown a lot of progress on this in the presentation, but you know, we are trying to be strategic with where we leverage our staffing resources in limited time. But I see Christy off mute, so I'll let Christy jump in.
Yeah, so Andrew, just to that point, you know, the reason why we did a closing fund, the reason why we included the allowance of property tax abatement, or allowing local taxing bodies to do that abatement up to 30 years, the reason why we abated electricity tax, utility excise tax for these large energy intensive projects is because we were seeing other states doing it. And we saw that those were the states that were winning projects. Yeah. So Kaz has a graph. He doesn't have it here now, but there is a chart that shows kind of the uptick in projects that we've received ever since we did the 30-year property tax abatement and the closing fund. Those are two critical things that we saw in other parts of the nation that we knew that we needed to do, and the legislature agreed. Kaz, I don't know if you have any other examples of where we did some research and then adopted those practices. Actually, the but-for is a good one too. Our surrounding states, you know, I don't know how many of our surrounding states didn't have the but-for, but it was, you know, a handful. And we saw that they were getting more projects. They were getting projects from us because, you know, we had these onerous but-for requirements for EDGE and HIB. And so we adopted that practice that we saw was successful in other states. And we also saw an uptick in EDGE.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Not hearing, Dr. Richards?
Yeah, I think we can, thank you, Kaz. Thank you, Kaz, for the presentation. That was excellent. My colleague, Norman, Dr. Romano administers the Illinois Works program for the state.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. Today I will be giving you an Illinois Works programs, the implementation of these programs, but also, more importantly, the legislative updates that were recently passed at the Illinois General Assembly for these programs. So moving on to the next slide. So some of you have been at previous presentations I've made, but I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page when it came to Illinois Works. So Illinois Works is a portfolio of programs designed to bring about equity and inclusion to construction in the trades in the state of Illinois, and to provide career opportunities to underrepresented populations, and more importantly, to create a long-term and sustainable pipeline for construction in the trades in the state. You will notice that this particular program and portfolio of programs came about as a result of the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act that was passed, signed into law in 2019. This law specifically created three particular programs that DCEO, under the fairly new Bureau of the Office of Illinois Works, has been implementing, and that is the Illinois Works 10% Apprenticeship Initiative, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program. Moving on. So why did this come about? And it's very important to keep in mind some of the things that are going on in the state of Illinois. On the one hand, massive investments that are resulting from the 6-year Rebuild Illinois Capital Investment Plan, $45 billion. And on top of that, obviously, there is expectations that more money will be coming to the state of Illinois through the infrastructure bill passed at the federal level. So this law was signed in 2019 with strong support from both the Black and Latino caucuses at the Illinois General Assembly. This is obviously one of the driving forces behind Illinois Works. The other reasons why this is so important is, on the one hand, we have an aging construction labor force in the state of Illinois. Large numbers of individuals are retiring out of the labor force. I've seen studies from union programs, that DOL registered apprenticeship programs, where they're projecting large numbers of journeymen exiting the labor force, and it's becoming a concern now that we have, as I mentioned, Rebuild Illinois, but also the infrastructure bill that is expected to bring in another at least $15 billion to the state of Illinois in the next few years for infrastructure building. The other key thing, and probably even more important, is the fact that we have key demographics in the state of Illinois that are seriously underrepresented in construction and the trades. Whereas women represent almost 51% of the Illinois population, they're only 5% of all Illinois apprentices. African Americans being almost 15% of the population, they're only 9% of Illinois apprentices. And what's challenging here is that this representation has not changed significantly in the last decade. In fact, in the last decade, the representation of African Americans in construction and the trades, particularly as it relates to has stayed flat. And that's what my next slide will show, which is the representation of various demographic groups in construction and the trades. Women very much flat, and African Americans for sure flat. And this is looking at a whole decade. So whatever has been done in the past hasn't really had a major impact in the representation of underrepresented groups in the labor force when it comes to construction and the trades. And Illinois Works is specifically designed to ensure that those numbers start to change positively and effectively in the next few years. How is Illinois Works innovative? One of the key things that Illinois Works does is that it operates, the various programs of Illinois Works operate like pieces of a puzzle. The first program, the Apprenticeship Initiative, creates demand for apprentices. It's a demand-driven program by having state agencies and the projects that they fund in the market comply with a certain goal of 10% of the estimated or the actual labor hours on the project being done by apprentices. We create demand for apprentices. So we create demand for individuals to come into the construction industry. The second program, the pre-apprenticeship program, is the one that laser focuses on a diverse and ready-to-work talent pipeline. So through this program, we actually ensure that individuals that are underrepresented in construction and the trades hear about the opportunities in construction. We provide funding for them to get trained and remove barriers that they may have for entry, and then facilitate transitioning into DOL registered apprenticeship programs so that they can achieve journey person status, be it a woman or a man in construction. And the last program is the bid credit program, whereas the first program, it's a compliance program that creates demand. The last program, the bid credit program, is actually an incentive program that provides incentives for contractors and subcontractors to hire and retain our pre-apprenticeship program graduates, so that as they enter the construction industry, these contractors can also benefit from hiring them. Now, here's an update on where we are in the implementation of the program, and then I'll follow with an update on the legislative changes, which are very important for us. So when it comes to the Apprenticeship Initiative, this program is fully operational as we speak. In fact, all state agencies that presently have active capital construction programs are working on the compliance of their projects. In the last year or so, they've reported about $10.4 billion worth of capital projects that are presently being executed throughout the whole state of Illinois. And we have a team that is presently watching the compliance of all of those projects. When it comes to the pre-apprenticeship program, that program is also fully operational. We presently have 29 providers of pre-apprenticeship services located throughout the state of Illinois with capacity for about 1,500 community members. We are presently working on releasing a new NOFO. Our expectation is that it will go out in July of 2023 with the focus of increasing capacity in different geographic areas, but also better serving some of the underrepresented populations that we're mandated to serve, and that includes veterans, Asian Americans, and others that are presently need better representation within our Illinois Work system. The total grant investment slated for 2024 is $25 million. We're expecting that we will bring our provider network to about 35 to 40 with capacity for close to 1,800 community members at that point. And the last program, the Bid Credit program, is in process of implementation. The first phase of this program is going to be rolled out very, very soon in the next month or so, July and August, and the second phase will be rolled out in October and November. Finally, the final update I wanted to provide to you has to do with legislative updates. So the Illinois Works system implemented the pre-apprenticeship program and the apprenticeship initiative, and in partnership, obviously, with the Illinois Works Review Panel, a series of updates for the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act. The main focus of these updates had to do with more effectively serving underrepresented populations and also to accelerate the pace of change about equity and inclusion in construction and the trades. And here are the three key legislative changes. I must say that these were already passed by the Illinois General Assembly. Both chambers overwhelmingly voted in favor of the proposed legislative changes. And the key three changes that were made to the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act have to do that from now on, half of the 10% goal of the apprenticeship initiative will now be met with Illinois Works, IDOT, or CJA pre-apprenticeship program graduates. In other words, for contractors to comply with that first program, half of the hours of the required hours will have to be done by graduates of Illinois Works, IDOT, or CJA. At the same time, state agencies will now be able to apply a series of accountability measures, including fines, for contractors that fail to comply with the apprenticeship initiative. And then the third key legislative change had to do with contractors will now be able to earn bid credits through our bid credit program by employing our pre-apprenticeship program graduates on any project, be it public or private. They can continue to only use those bid credits to bid on public projects, but they can earn those bid credits on public or private projects. So that's the legislative update that I have, and all the information related to Illinois Works. I don't know if there are any questions related to this presentation. Please let me know.
Do we have a present at this point for any Q&A? Anyone has a question? How about the individuals on the internet right now out there?
I have a question. This is Jane from Chicago Women in Trades. So as we look, I noticed that with the legislation, we're including all of the pre-apprenticeship programs that the state funds, which is great. I think that makes sense. For the IDOT participants, the HCCTP participants, they get the employers get a subsidy of $15 an hour for the apprentices that they hire for the duration of their apprenticeship program, I believe. Is there any chance that folks that graduate from other pre-apprenticeship programs might be able to access that kind of subsidy?
At this particular moment, that was not contemplated in the legislative changes, Jane. The subsidy that IDOT graduates get, it's federal funding. All the funding that we presently use for our pre-apprentices in Illinois Works is state funding. Certainly, that's something that could be considered for the future, but it presently is not part of this legislative change.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have 2 questions. Can you hear me? I'm trying to raise my hand.
By all means.
Okay. This is Elba Aranda. Thank you, Norman, for the great presentation. With regards to the bid credit, I understand that the implementation is going to happen in July, but is there anything that you may have for public education to share with prospective or partnerships in the hiring industry that would be interested to learn more about that? Is there anything available already?
Certainly. So we are in the first phase of implementation includes an outreach strategy, not only to contractors, but to grantees and other stakeholders out there. We are right now in the process with our comms team of finalizing a one-sheeter and flyers related to this program. So those will be made available along with a website landing page that will be made available at DCO's website. Those should be available to 2. So as soon as those are ready, we will make them available to everybody.
That's great. Yeah, I could see a lot of folks being interested in knowing more about that. And then my other question is with regards to the data on construction employment by demographic. When you're looking at the construction industry, we're looking at general or all apprentices. And what I mean by that is, particularly with the Latino community, when you look at construction employment, it includes seasonal work, which it isn't, indicative of strong, meaningful long-time work. So I was just curious, does that include the seasonal work?
So when we're looking at apprentices, we're talking about DOL registered apprentices, right? These are apprentices that are, according to USDOL, are considered to be trades, or, there are people that are employed in, like you mentioned, in seasonal employment, but also in the professional sectors. Most of those do not have DOL registered apprenticeship programs. As a result, the focus on the numbers that I just described right now is on the trades that are certified with DOL.
You answered my question. I wasn't sure. I thought so, but it wasn't sure. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Director?
I think we're ready for Christine Haley with the Department of Human Services and the presentation on Home Illinois.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. My name is Christine Haley. I'm the Chief Homelessness Officer in the Governor's Office. Good to be with you. I'm going to spend a few moments talking about homelessness in Illinois. We know that annually there are about 120,000 Illinoisans who experience homelessness each year. Within that includes those who are doubled up living with family and friends, those who are unsheltered and living outside, students, and those fleeing domestic violence. There are a number of myths around persons who are experiencing homelessness. One is that many people experiencing homelessness have serious mental illnesses. From state data, we know that that's about 18% of the homeless population has a serious mental illness, or that most people who are experiencing homelessness have substance use disorders. According to our state data, that's about 12%. So that another myth is that people don't know how to self-resolve, and really most people who enter a literal homeless situation, meaning that they live outside in a place not meant for human habitation or otherwise, that they are able to exit that situation on their own. There are a subset of folks, though, who do need additional supports in order to end their homelessness situation. And that's also that there's a myth that homelessness is an urban problem. We see homelessness in every community across our state. There is not a place where folks may experience homelessness. It does look different in rural areas. It is not as visually seen. We know from our street outreach workers in urban and rural areas that it's much more likely that folks may be in abandoned barns, in cars, in places that are just not seen. We have what's called our point in time count data that shows us year after year the number of people who experience homelessness each year. And that overall, we've seen dramatic decreases since 2005 when we started collecting this data to understand at any given day how many people are experiencing literal homelessness. In that we know that on any given day, there's about 10,000 people in Illinois who are experiencing literal homelessness, but that's about our 12,000 number. What we have not made as much progress on is how we are addressing folks who are experiencing chronic homelessness. That bottom blue line are for those who are experiencing, who both are living with a disability and who have longer periods of homelessness. So who have either been homeless for over a year or who've had multiple episodes of experiencing homelessness. In September of 2021, Governor Pritzker signed an executive order to fight homelessness, which creates 3 new entities: an interagency task force on homelessness, a community advisory council, and then our state homelessness chief position that I hold in our office. And within the executive order, it includes goals that were already identified around addressing homelessness and achieving functional zero. Functional zero is a metric which helps us understand when a community has effectively ended homelessness. It does not mean that no one ever becomes homeless again. It just means that when someone does become homeless, there's a resource for them on the other side, so that we are housing more people in any given month than who are becoming homeless. To address unnecessary institutionalization, for that we are really thinking about those who are that we're preventing people from entering nursing homes when they could be in community-based settings, and then also understanding how we are supporting people who are leaving in carceral settings to prevent them from becoming homeless if they don't have a destination post being incarcerated. We want to improve health and human services outcomes for folks, strengthening our safety net to support people if they do have a housing crisis, and then coordinate all the different homeless prevention resources. These are the departments that are part of our interagency task force on homelessness, which does include the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the Department of Economic Security. We are able to add agencies to the task force if needed. And then in this year's General Assembly, a bill passed to codify the task force, the Community Advisory Council, and my office. So although it was created under EO, it is now codified. So we're excited that this work will continue. Within the Community Advisory Council on homelessness, and I'm sorry, for this added 4 additional seats for the Illinois General Assembly. So 2 for on the Senate side and 2 on the 2 on the Senate and 2 on the House. So those appointments will be made shortly. And then our Community Advisory Council on homelessness, which has represents folks who have lived expertise, and our local continuums of care, the COCs. Those are our policy and planning bodies to address homelessness. So within our plan, the name of our plan is Home Illinois. It's our strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. And that when we launched our plan, it's a 2-year plan that goes for FY23 fiscal years 23 and 24. We went to each of the directors of the agencies on the task force to ask them what were the commitments that their agencies could make to being able to address homelessness. So it's not an aspirational plan, it is a written commitment that we have made as the state in advancing work towards ending homelessness. And in that we have racial equity at the core. African Americans are overrepresented in the the population of folks experiencing homelessness. I thought that the last presentation that showed the disparities that exist with African Americans and access to work, really that we should understand where we see the intersections between homelessness and continued access to work that will pay a living wage. There's 4 components. One is pillars. One is to build more affordable and permanent supportive housing. The second is bolstering our safety net, including additional funding for shelter, securing our financial stability, which includes the workforce presentation that Assistant Deputy Governor George spoke of around our $5 million pilot in partnership with DCEO using JTED, and then the 5th, closing the mortality gap. So here are a number of the key budget activities that we are seeing significant increase from FY23 to FY24. And I'm sure you'll have I'm happy to share the slides so you can see all those increases. And then really the opportunities for partnership. We see with the business community and workforce, for example, that within Los Angeles, that there's a clear partnership called Home for Good with the LA Chamber of Commerce and the United Way, partnering with homeless services organizations and developing their plan. There's opportunities of understanding how we partner with continuum of care and homeless service agencies to create and recruit employees for folks who are experiencing homelessness, advancing our data infrastructure, and personally understanding how we support when there is a new supportive housing development in your neighborhood, really having a place where we can build housing for people who are chronic homelessness. So we need that community support in order to get those moving. And then to consider if you'd be considered to start a work group within your board to really be thinking about what workforce strategies for people experiencing homelessness and how we can more closely partner with businesses across the state and supporting our Illinoisans. Neighbors. So this is our general contact information for the office if you would like to join our listserv, and then of course my contact if folks would like to talk further. Thank you.
Any questions? Not hearing any at this time. We originally had Lisa Jones our agenda. We will we'll hold it for now and park it for the next one.
Yeah, and I think Amy will be sending out information to members of the board to provide the OMA updates. Yes.
Grateful. Thank you. With that, if there's any comments or anything, any new public comments at this point? Anyone? By all means.
Thank you. Just wanted to bring up, as the new incoming chair of the apprenticeship committee, I want to really start digging in further as a key component where the state agencies can start looking at their funding to start helping with apprenticeship programs. So as funding does come in, how can we wrap around via Apprenticeship Illinois to start posting as well as making it available for employers to take advantage of some of the grant funding that is out there from the different agencies. So hoping we can start looking at that as an opportunity for some of the agencies to start working together there. So.
Perfect. Anyone else? Anyone else have an announcement of any kind? There's 2 or 3 individuals here today. We talked about the new members coming in, but there is at least 2, maybe 3 that have been here for 25 years on the board. And Barb is one of them. I'm another person. I also served 25 years with Barb. And with my pleasure, Tony, been around ever since and been guiding me ever since. haven't missed one. With that, I'm gonna ask for adjournment at this point, so a motion to adjourn, a first and second, please.
After 25 years, motion to adjourn.
Finally. Is there a second? Second, Tony? Good choice. Thank you all for being here, and be safe all the way going home. Thank you. Our next meeting, just so you know, is September 14th, and thereafter it'll be December 7th. So thanks again.